This episode of the Beauty Industry podcast was brought to you by Timely, the world's smartest appointment booking software helping beauty and wellness businesses better manage their time, sanity, and ability to generate revenue. Hello and welcome to the Beauty Industry podcast, your online support community for the professional beauty industry. I am your host, founding director of Beauty Industry, Tamara Reid. Here we are closing the competitive gap and speaking your language. This is a platform created and dedicated to the professional beauty industry, valuing community over competition. We serve to help connect you with inspiration from industry experts, expand your knowledge through educational pieces, and bring you the latest in product and technology innovation. This is Beauty Industry. Today's guest is Brigitte Benge of Cream Solutions. I first heard about Brigitte Benge in 2009, which was the very first year I entered beauty school while working at a day spa. In the back kitchen of our spa was a newsletter from Brigitte where she detailed an experience about a salon in New York that she had recently visited, and the experience had wowed her socks off in many ways, including the retail and prescription. From then onwards, I subscribed to Brigitte's weekly email, and she became an industry idol that I looked up to always serve my clients and perform an exceptional service, something that you all know I still preach today. I'm assuming many of you listening to the podcast today would have had a similar experience or story of how and where you were when you were first introduced to Brigitte. However, for those of you who haven't crossed paths, Brigitte is one of the original beauty industry coaches our industry has grown up with. Originally an account director, also known as a business strategist, in leading national and international advertising agencies in both Melbourne and Sydney, Brigitte noticed the beauty industry had problems and couldn't understand why, only seeing the potential of what should be a flourishing industry. Brigitte began coaching the beauty industry professionals in 2005 with just a few clients on her books, but it wasn't long before she was coaching hundreds of salons and hundreds more therapists. Brigitte's academic qualifications, together with her business, hands-on salon experience and coaching experience, have guided many salon owners to turn their salons into successful businesses, real businesses where high turnover, high productivity, and high client and staff retention are all achieved as a matter of course. Brigitte is one of the few people in the beauty industry who tells it like it is. She says herself that there are no filters between what she knows and what she shares, and for that, I am most excited to bring you the conversation today. From Cream Solutions, today we welcome Brigitte Benge.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here, and I really appreciate you having me.
Likewise. This has been a long time coming, and I know so many of our community people and audience are going to be so excited to hear all about your story, because we know so much about Brigitte Benge, the Cream Solutions coach in 2020, and I'm sure a lot of people know your story, but we don't know the background. We don't know the Brigitte prior to Cream. We don't know where you first started, a lot of us. So I'd love to start the conversation by going all the way back there. Where did it first begin for you?
Okay. All right. Well, it's a funny story, just from the daughter of a Jewish mother, always wanted me to be a lawyer, right? So the first thing I knew when I finished school, I went into university, I was doing law commerce. And of course, it just wasn't what I wanted to be. I didn't want to be a lawyer. And I sneaked out after the first year and went into this TAFE. It's just like it's a TAFE for dummies. Marketing in those days were what you did if you didn't do well at school. And I knew that my parents would have gone berserk if I had done that. But after a year, I sneaked out, pretended that I was still going to Monash University, but instead I was going to this TAFE to learn marketing because I wanted to work in advertising agencies. Needless to say, my parents found out, weren't happy. But I finished that and I started my career in advertising agencies. And I worked my way up to being what's called an account director. And an account director has a creative team with her. Like, she runs a team of art directors and copywriters and strategists. So I was the business strategist. I was the business side of every client. And I had some pretty big clients, but the most most prominent one, and the one that I think started feeding my future, was a product called, you now know it as West Coast Cooler, but it ended up on my desk as a green bottle without a label. And the owner of Penfolds owns West Coast, said to me, Brigitte, I need you to name it, sell it, but not just sell the product, you need to sell the category. And the category was cooler. And I remember saying, what's a cooler? Nobody knew what a cooler was at the time. And he explained it to me. And he said, so you've got a big job. It's not just selling this product, but it's selling the category itself. And we had $4 million to do it. Now, this is back in 1995. Can you imagine $4 million in 1995? It's like having a budget of 10 million now, probably. So it was really easy for us. And what happened, and I learned that I learned to love outcomes. We realized that when you had that much money, you can sell anything, right? So we named it West Coast Cooler. We did a really great, cool ad. It was on air absolutely everywhere. And we got it to be the number one cooler in the country with 60% of the market share.
Wow.
And 40% was shared by 200 other coolers, right? So we were up there. We did our job. We launched it. We did a really good job of it. But here's what's really interesting, Tamara. When you have a lot of money, when you advertise and promote, you can pretty much get anybody to buy anything the first time, right? But after that, it's the product that's got to sell it, yeah? So I can get West Coast Cooler through advertising in the hands of just about everybody, and we did. At the time we did. We got such a huge market share. But it was the taste. It was how good was it? So it actually didn't last because the product, wasn't that great, right?
Right.
It was still famous, don't get me wrong, but it couldn't sustain itself unless we kept pouring more and more money into it. And that is not the point of marketing. That's not the point of advertising. The point of marketing is to get us out there into the marketplace, and then the product speaks for itself, right? And then retention comes that way, right? So now you're starting to think how I was thinking. I thought with advertising, when you're in advertising and you've got a big budget, you can sell anything. You can sell rubbish, right? But will people keep buying rubbish if you don't keep putting money into it? And that's when I started understanding that I love cause and effect. I love A plus B equals C. And so I became a very formulaic person. I thought if I do this and I do that, then this will happen. So that's how I got into the industry. And that was my metamorphosis when I did really well. By the time I got to 1996, I was at a really high position, being very highly paid in an industry that was very male focused. So being a female was really, really hard in those days, but I still did it. And I know that I did well because I loved it. I just loved what I did. Till one day I collapsed, and I was from exhaustion, just completely collapsed from exhaustion.
Yeah, right.
And I remember going into hospital and thinking, oh my God, I'm working 12, 15 hours a day, sometimes, 7 days a week. And I didn't know what to do with myself. And I knew that I needed to rest. So I went home. And in those days, I had a nanny that looked after my very young son at the time. He was 5. And I remember saying to her, I still need you because I've got to rest. But I need you to be around for Daniel. And Daniel ran and he fell. And the two of us jumped and ran to him. And to me, he put his hand out and he said, no. And he wrapped himself around her.
Oh, no.
He did not want a bar of me. He was hurt and he wanted comfort from her. And I went, wow. This is so not what I signed up for when I wanted to be a mum. This is not at all what I expected. He loves her and trusts her more than he loves and trusts me, understandably, because I was hardly home. And that's when I realized, I think I had a midlife crisis, and I thought, I don't want to do this anymore. And when I went to give my 3 months notice because I was on contract, I remember my boss saying, don't tell me it's the money. It can't be the money. I said, no, it's not the money. It's my lifestyle. It's my son doesn't even know me. right?
Mm.
And he says, well, what are you going to do? And I remember thinking, I don't know. He goes, you going to another agency? I said, I don't know. All I know is I don't want to do this anymore.
Right.
And Tamara, it took 9 months of sitting at home, really trying to figuring out, the meaning of life and what did I want to do with myself and my life. So this is where my background comes in and my personal passion, or let's call it a hobby, right? My parents come from a French background, and before we came to Australia, I wasn't born here. I came here when I was 8. We lived in Paris for 2 years. So I must have been 6 to 8 at the time. And I remember my mother coming home and saying she just couldn't believe how Australians went to the department store or the pharmacy for their skincare. Because in France, it's like they're serious estheticians in there. Like that, they were really serious about skincare and looking after your skin, about anti-aging, even in those days when we only had products that were what do we call fluffy brands, like they were only professional, beautiful relaxation brands. They took it a lot more seriously. And I saw that in Australia, people just weren't making money in our industry. And I went, that just doesn't make sense. Mm. So when I was sitting there for 9 months trying to figure out my life, I thought, you know what? I have really good business experience. I have really great leadership skills. I was a very good leader in the agency. And I thought, I want to become a coach in the industry. That's what I want to do. I want to coach these people, right? I want to show people how they can make money in this amazing industry that everybody loves and needs and wants. We want skincare. But I thought it was a little bit cheeky to coach a bunch of people when you don't even know what their business is all about. Like, yes. How can I go off and tell beauty therapists what to do in their businesses when I'm not a beauty therapist myself, or I've never been in that industry myself? So I remember thinking, how hard can that be? I'm going to open up my own salon. How hard can it be? 1 or 2 years, learning curve, easy peasy, no problem. 10 years later.
Wow.
It took 10 years so I had the salons for 16 years, but it took 10 years before I started making the real money that I wanted other people to make, like major profit, right? And I had to go through this huge learning curve. And that's what led me into this industry. That's what I chose. That's what I'm going to do with my life. I'm just going to open up a salon, and then I'm going to become a coach, and I'm going to become a coach in a couple of years. Well, no, it took over 10 years before I started coaching salons. But yeah, that's how the whole thing started.
Oh my goodness, Brigitte, what a moment. I mean, that's a lot for you to go through, seeing, almost that disconnection from your son, and then sitting there for 9 months pondering these huge life questions. What is the meaning? What am I doing here? What did that feel like for you? I mean, who did you turn to in that time, and who was your support? And especially I'd love to know when you said to your people around you, I'm going to go open up a beauty salon, like what did they say at that time?
Even the word beauty salon, they called it a beauty shop. So for a start, my parents were so angry. Like, I even got the education was wasted on you, Brigitte, because I had done so well, and I'd financially done well, career-wise I'd done well. And here you are, you want to open up a beauty shop? Like, are you mad? And my friends were exactly the same. Like, people just thought, what are you doing? People thought that this midlife crisis was this moment of madness that I was hitting. But I knew it wasn't, because I also truly believe that you will succeed at anything as long as you love what you do, right? Yes. If you love it, that's how you become really good at it, because loving it means you're prepared to put in all the hours and all the hard work and work just a little bit harder than normal. And I loved advertising, but it wasn't conducive for a woman. At the time I was a single mother. It just wasn't conducive to having a single lifestyle and have a child that I valued so much. Like, I loved being a mother. It's not like I was this big career woman that didn't want to be with my kid. I wanted the best of both worlds, right? So I had to replace one passion with another, right? And everybody thought that I had lost my mind, right? I never thought I'd lost my mind. I'll be honest with you. I always thought there was something bigger. I didn't think it was going to take as long as it did, but I always thought there was just something big for me. And I've been in this industry now since 1996, and I still love it. Like, I'm still excited by it, but I'm excited about what a lot of salon owners are not. I'm excited by the business aspect of it, the potential, the promise that this industry offers salon owners. And of course offered me. Like, I did really well, and I sold my salon in 2010 and sold it for a great price. And it's what I wanted to help people build, so that they can one day sell for what I call is that big last paycheck. For all the blood and sweat and tears that you put into your business, it's worth something at the end. You sell it and you get that big whopping paycheck. Whereas it's so sad that so many businesses just shut down or just close up and lose, actually, let alone sell. And even if they do sell, they sell it for a lot less than they thought they would. And it's because people just don't understand business concepts. They don't understand business strategy. Salon owners are great therapists, like the best in the business, but that's not what it takes to run a business. Right?
No, sorry, go ahead. I was just going to ask you, you said it took 10 years to make money. A lot of people would quit after about 10 months these days of not making money. How did you kind of go through those 10 years and not give up sooner? And how did you survive?
Oh, such a great, well, how did I survive was not so hard, thank God, because I had money put aside from having a good job before. So I was very lucky. I wouldn't have actually probably be able to last that long. My learning curve, or my step into the industry, was really tough, because in those days, no one would have a bar of me. So I went into the industry. Nobody owned a salon that wasn't operated by a therapist. I'm pretty sure I was like the first one, if not one of the first ones. So when I knocked on the doors of the big houses at the time, Falgo and Sotis and all the big ranges at the time, remember there was no cosmeceuticals at the time, they all just no. I mean, even Clarins at first said just no to me. Like, no way, had no faith in me. And I remember, Clarins at first said no, but then they said yes. So I opened up with Clarins and Aveda. Right? That's how the two products that I had, they were the only people at the end that I could convince to sell to a non-therapist. And also, I had to go through that learning curve of understanding ingredients and what every product did, understanding skin anatomy. I never did a diploma. I didn't want to be a beauty therapist. I never wanted to be a beauty therapist, but I believed that I needed to know everything there was to know. So it was a really long learning curve. And I don't know about a conservative, but I'm a long-term thinker. All right. I don't want immediate success, because often immediate success comes at a price. So I wanted that long-term success. And you got to remember, I was developing the strategy, right? I wasn't opening a business because I wanted a salon. I was developing this whole strategy. And then, we had a recession, a terrible recession. Like, it was really tough at the time. My parents were absolutely zero support because they were so embarrassed by my direction. So I had very, very little support, but I was determined. And so what happened was, in the first 10 years, I went up a little bit and then down, because I went down quite a bit, and then I went up and I went down. And then in 2005, 2016, I went like that.
Right.
It's like I got it. Like, all of a sudden, all the strategies, all the policies, all the procedures, everything I had built, I just took this exponential curve. And that's what I want. That's the learning curve I wanted to share with everybody else. Right. So it's almost like I had to pay the price, but it's not like it was just going to grow sadly. I just went kaboomba. It just went really great. And so for the last 5 years of my business that I had it, I wasn't there anymore. I was never there. I was there twice a month. And it was the last Wednesday of the month. I was there for an hour and a half. That was a staff meeting that I had with my team, telling them what's coming up next month. And then the first Wednesday of the month was going back. How did we go last month? And that's it. That's how often I went into the salon, and I ran the business completely from home, completely on procedures and systems, right? I didn't have to be there. The business, it got to a point that by the time I went home, if you said Brigitte Benge in my salon, clients will go, who? Like, who's Brigitte Benge? Whereas the first 10 years, Brigitte Benge's the owner, right? They know me so well. But after a while, new clients had no idea who I was because I had nothing to do with the daily running of the business anymore, which is what I wanted, right? You don't want to be attached to the business because when you sell, you don't want the success to be attached to you as a person, right?
Yes.
You want it to be attached to the systems and to the training and the people and how things are done. So I was fine with it. You know, I was happy that it got to that point.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that actually, because only my accountant about 2 months ago said, I am so happy you didn't name this business after your name, because he said in the next 10 years, when you want to sell this, you're going to be able to sell it and you can step away from it and it's still going to be this global thing. It's a machine, you know, and that's exactly what you did. You know, you've stepped out of the business. It's kept running without you in it every single day, but it's still a machine. And then when you are able to sell it, it's not as if you've got to detach your identity to the business, because you've kind of trained your staff and the clients and the business up that way from day one.
Yeah. And think about it. What I created and what you're creating right now, and what I've created too with calling it Cream Solutions, is I've created a system dependent business, not a people dependent business. Even though people work in it, it doesn't matter who the people are. As long as you've got systems and they follow your systems, it is still a system dependent business, right? So divorcing yourself from that is easy. Like, it's an easy thing, and it should be a goal for everybody. So we have to put ego aside. As you know, it would be all very nice to call myself BridgetteBenge.com and Brigitte Benge, Brigitte Benge. Who cares about Brigitte Benge? People at the end of the day don't care about me. They care about results. They care about being helped. And so yes, just like you, Tamara, if I want to sell, I've got something to sell, right?
Yeah. I love that. I'm wondering if you remember who your very first coaching client was, and how did you get them? First of all, obviously the industry didn't have, you know, typical coaches like we do now. And, you know, there wasn't a whole lot of word of mouth referral about business coaches in the beauty industry, as you said, because a lot of them were therapists first and foremost and didn't have that strategy behind them. And also too, if I can ask, how has your strategy changed since then to what you're doing now, or has it changed at all?
Yeah, great question. Okay, so the first client I got, I hope she hears this so that she understands she's my first true client. And it was a woman called Kathy Smith. And she had not one salon, 5 salons called Skinnovations. So talk about being thrown at the deep end, right? So how did I get her? I just started doing email marketing. But Tamara, we didn't even have CRMs there. This is like through Gmail. Yeah. And you put in these addresses and you send one freaking email at a time, right? And if it was then, I had no idea how to do that. You know, I was literally going through the yellow pages or Googling people and finding their email address, doing all the illegal stuff, you know, like putting in people into my mailing list, totally illegal. And I was, and of course, everybody was like, who are you? Like, who are you? You know, like, no. And also people want to know if I've had, you know, my own salons or if I'm a beauty therapist. The minute I say I'm not a beauty therapist, nah, what would you know, kind of thing. Anyway, Kathy, I don't know. Kathy had so much faith in me, but she comes in not with one salon, she comes in with 5, and it's like 25 therapists. Scared the bejeebers out. I remember going in there confident as I don't know what, and then going home and thinking, what have I got myself into? Right? But at the end of the day, I mean, at one point I had 7 therapists in my salon. I didn't have 5, but I had 7 therapists in my salon. So I was able to, you know, train a team. So I just fobbed it. Not fobbed it. What is it? Just faked it, I guess, at the beginning. But it all worked because in the end, she just wanted to get out. She wanted to sell, and we managed to sell her salons one at a time, right? So I got there. And she was very kind and very generous to me. I think I'll never forget her. Like, I will never, ever forget her. I don't think she's in the industry anymore. But I remember even going to her home and coaching her in her home, and we had her girls at home, and yeah, it was pretty exciting. And I don't know, sometimes I think that if it wasn't for her raising, you know, singing my praises, I don't know if I'd be who I am today, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's wonderful.
Well, I was also going to say, you know, in our group a lot, people say, you know, who's an industry coach or mentor, or who do you go for to ask KPIs and da da da. And I guess you have built up so much of your coaching program via word of mouth. Like, I don't really see, you know, a lot of other coaches in the industry, they do a lot of Facebook ads, or they're always at all the big events and things like that. And you're kind of not, you're more like tucked away, understated, just doing your own thing, which I love.
Yeah, well, I've never done a Facebook ad. I remember I did one little singular column ad in Professional Beauty once a long time ago, and it cost me a fortune. It was something like a few $1,000s, and I don't think I got any bookings for a workshop. And other than that, I've never advertised. Like, I never have. That's not to say I won't, because I love the concept of Facebook advertising, and I am going in that direction, and I want to go global. Like, I don't want to just stay in Australia. So if I want to go global, nobody knows me overseas. But no, I have built a business by default through clients and through suppliers, right? So if you think about it, when I was a salon owner, I went to every product school. Not only once, but 5, 6, 7 times. I remember going to MD Formulations for the 17th time.
Wow.
And the trainer there at the time was Joanna Kopinski, and she said, if you come back here, I'm going to slap you. Like, how many times? I remember I was just hungry I just needed to know. I always needed to know more than my therapist, so that I could be the go-to girl for them, right? So education was a big thing. So I ended up being in a lot of people's scope of vision. And I got a lot of support from suppliers as well, because they saw that my private clients at the time were getting results. And so, yeah, I've been really, really lucky that way. And you're not going to believe it, Tamara, if I told you now that my database has 1,200 people on it.
Wow.
And it's never been more than that, because, you know, I'm the kind of person that cleans up my database every month. If people haven't responded to me, you know, I remove them, because I just want to speak to people who want to speak to me, kind of thing, right? So by now, a lot of people have tens of thousands of people on their database, not me, right? Like 1,200, that's it, with a 35% open rate. So you can imagine, it's just, you don't hear about me all that much. But I don't know, I've built a name. As I think I told you once before, my name is the most important thing to me. You know, what my reputation means a lot. And I sort of ride on that skirt, you know, that reputation, having a good reputation. And so, yeah, but you will see me advertising the minute we get out of this slump. I really want to go global. Yeah.
After the break, we hear from Brigitte on policies, procedures, retailing, and prescription. But first, a word from today's beauty partner. Community, you know all too well how pro I am about all things online booking and working smarter, not harder in 2020, and our friends at Timely help you to do just that. Timely is a powerful booking and business management software for businesses of any size and ambition. Designed to help you save hours on admin, deliver exceptional client experience, establish a much-loved brand and grow your revenue with over 500 software updates every year, Timely is always on a mission to help you get the best from your business. Timely works beautifully with Tyro, Xero, QuickBooks, MailChimp, Square, Google Calendar, and more. So why not join over 40,000 global Timely customers today? If you've been thinking about making the switch from pen and paper or want to test a new salon software system, visit www.gettimely.com to start a free 14-day trial. The Timely team has an exclusive offer for the listeners of today's episode where you get 50% off Timely for your first 2 months. It's such an incredible offer by using the promo code Tamara20. That's Tamara and the number 20. Thank you so much to the team at Timely for making this episode possible. And now back to Brigitte. Coming from an advertising background, one would think that you would hit the ground running advertising and marketing straight away, and that would be the strategy that you would go into beauty businesses with. However, it's really quite opposite how you've gone into beauty businesses, because your strategy isn't around sales and discounts. Can you, for those who don't know, have a chat to us about what a Brigitte Benge coaching call or session actually looks like if it's not sales and discounts?
Yeah. Okay. So let me first answer the question that you had before, because it leads to this. Has my strategy changed? No, it's the same since 1996, because the strategy at the time, and maybe it was the lesson that I learned with West Coast Cooler, was that advertising and spending money on advertising can only be short term, or it can be long term, as long as you're ready to pour lots of money into it all of the time, right? But the beauty industry, that's not the kind of business that we want. We want retention. We want a client to come in and stay with us forever, right? We don't want, I always joke, we don't sell red dresses, so it doesn't matter where you buy it from. We sell results. So we have to concentrate on retention. And to have short-term results, like a lot of people do ads or Facebook ads or messenger ads and whatever, and they get a big result, but it's always at a cost. Now, it's okay if you lose in the first promotion, if it means everybody stays, there's retention, right? And that's what we call loss leaders, yeah? So you do a big promotion, you don't make too much money on it, maybe you lose a bit, but it's worth it because you've gained all these new clients. But that's not what happens, right? People make big money. Think of Groupon, right? People have massive sales, 10, 20,000 going into the business, but you only attracted the people that came to you because the microdermabrasion was $29, right? That's why I came, because it was only $29. Put it up by $10, $20, I'll never be back. Correct. So the chance of conversion or retention is impossible. So unless you keep doing stuff like this, which you can't afford, like the wage alone is more than $29, then you end up in a really bad place. And so I love marketing and I'm very good at it, but it's about strategy. It's about the long term. True business, it's all about building the foundations, right? It's about learning how to be a great leader. It's about learning how to sell the right product, how to train your team, how to have an extraordinary service business, how to stand out so people come to your salon and that's it. They feel great. I don't need to look anymore. I've got the place I want to go to. Results. These people give results. I don't care that they're not beautiful or pretty or, I've got beautiful fluffy gowns. I'm getting what I want for. And that requires strategy and systems and a way of doing things. And so as much as I love marketing, and that's where my background comes from, I know that marketing alone is short term. It's all the work that you've got to do underneath, right? And we have to do that work, because when you do all that work underneath and then you do marketing, oh my God, your business goes berserk. Right? So marketing is great. It has a place, definitely has a place. But what is the point of constantly attracting new people into your business if you don't know how to hold on to them?
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
That's the point. I needed to teach people how to hold on to them first. And once they've got that down pat, then let's go on to marketing, start spending some good money and getting some new business. But until then, we're just wasting money.
Yes. And I so wholeheartedly agree with that. And I love that we are so aligned in our thought process, because I too, and I am not a coach. I'm always the first to put my hands up and say, I'm not a coach in the beauty industry. I don't want to sit down like you do with business owners and go through their P&L and their figures and da-da-da. It's not in me. I'm a community creator and I'm an advice giver, but a lot of people come to me and they'll say, Tamara, there's this coach who's doing this and there's this coach who's doing this. And I always say, what is their background and what is their end strategy? Because if they want to sell you, like you're saying, the old Groupon days, I was a therapist, a victim therapist of the Groupon who sold 1,800 Groupons. They were 5-hour packages and I was exhausted. And the business owner, I remember she was elated. We were picking up phones left, right and center, and she got all this money in, and then she went bust because she couldn't afford the wages. And this is happening now in our industry as well. So when people say, what do you think of this coach or this consultant or mentor or whatever people are calling themselves these days, I always say, what is the end strategy? Fair enough, they want to get bums on beds. I get it. But what are you doing after that? What are you doing once you get the client there? What are you doing once the client leaves, And I so appreciate that you're talking about foundations and team and leadership. I don't think we even speak enough of in our industry.
That's the thing. It's the two most important things are leadership and identity. People don't even know what they are. what do you do? Like, who are you? Why should I come to you and not the salon down the road? Like, what do you specialize? What do you believe in? What are your values? Instead, salon owners, because they don't have that background, and of course they didn't learn that at beauty school, they're always looking at what other people are doing, right? What you should be looking at is, what would you want if you were the ideal client, right? It's so much easier to be introspective than to constantly go out and see what everybody else is doing. Because I've often said to somebody, why are you doing this? And they go, well, but so-and-so is doing it. And I said, well, what if she's an idiot? You're going to be an idiot with her? Like, that's not a reason to do it, right? And everything is strategy and tactics. That's all. We've just got to work at the base of it. So first we got to get into identity. And I have to tell you a funny story. When I first launched Leadership and Management Academy, I didn't even want to promote that we talked about identity, because I knew people go, I know who I am. I don't want to learn that. I don't need to do that. I kept it out. And yet it was the first module and the most important module, and the module I worked on the hardest. But I thought, if they saw the word identity in my landing page or whatever, they're going to go, nah, I don't need this. Like all these boring words, leadership, identity, management, reports, like benchmarks, all those things. Oh, no, that's too boring. It's boring, but it's what works, right? And actually, it's not that boring. I think it's a lot of fun. But it is the foundations of any business, not just ours, any business. Like if you think about Richard Branson. I love Richard Branson as an example. Like, do you think he flies planes, or he, is the banker behind the credit card or anything like that? No, he's a strategist. And he's not even educated. Like, the guy doesn't have a degree. He barely finished school. He was just really passionate about what he believed in, right? And that's, you want to be successful in our industry, all you have to do is be passionate. That's the best starting point. But you got to do the work. And the work is fun, I think.
Yeah, that's great advice there, Brigitte. You mentioned before your policies and your procedures was something that you embedded into your business prior to becoming a coach yourself. Where does it kind of teeter on the border of policies and procedures versus micromanagement? While we're speaking about this theme of leadership, there's a real standpoint, because therapists, as you said, therapists become the manager becomes the business owner. We don't have any formal business training or degrees or leadership qualities behind us yet. And then we're put into the leadership position as such. Where does that kind of grey area come from between giving somebody a task to do and then micromanaging them?
Okay, and I think that's one of the greatest questions. And I think you're actually the first person who's ever asked me. And I wish somebody had asked me earlier so that I could give you this answer. A lot of people at first think that policies and procedures is micromanaging. Because with me, at the end of every policy, there's a little table at the bottom. And a therapist has to date the table, put her name, and sign that she read it, understood it, and commits to putting it into action. Right? So, and if you don't understand it, don't sign it, because we need to get you to sign it when you fully commit and fully understand. And so people think, oh my God, that's micromanaging, getting people to sign off on stuff like that. And in fact, it's the complete opposite. It's developing the system, the way we do things here, the ideal way. How do we provide extraordinary service to every client by every therapist at every visit without exception? How does a client come to our salon knowing that the service they got last time will be identical? It will be extraordinary, extraordinary, more than ordinary. We can't offer that if we don't have systems, a way of doing things, right? And so what happens initially when we have policies and procedures, sure, we hold people accountable to it. If they don't follow it, we hold them accountable and we make sure that they do. But what happens, Tamara, it actually gives you the freedom you've been wanting your whole professional life. Because when you walk away and you go on holidays or you decide to work from home, everybody depends on the system. They don't depend on me. I remember saying to my girls when I was in the salon and took a day off, I said, there's only 2 reasons why you can call me while I'm away. A, the salon's burning down. Please do. If it's burning down, call me, right? And B, if it's not in the policies and procedures manual.
Right.
And if it isn't, call me, we'll develop it and we'll add it. but you're not allowed to ring me. Go to the manual first. Everything is there, right? Every single possible procedure in the greatest of detail is there. And so when I did take time off or decide to work from home, that's exactly what they did. My policies and procedures manual was tattered. It was one of those folders with tattered pages, not one of those beautiful. I mean, I see people's folders and it's up on the shelf and it looks perfect, like you just printed it last week. But ours was tattered and coffee stained, and, you know, it was used every day. I had every single procedure. It sets people up for success. You know, how to put something through an FPOS machine. How do you handle a refund? What do you say to the client? When do you accept a refund? When you don't? When the client says this, what do you say to her? Instead of saying, Brigitte, I've got an irate client here and she said this, and what do I do? What do I do? No, it's all in there. And there's no exception. This is how we do things here, right? So it's a thick manual. And the manual that I have in Cream Solutions, when people say to me, you know, how long did it take you to build? I sort of figure it probably took about 300 hours, but I didn't do it in 300 hours. It took the whole 16 years to put it together. This was the Me, Skin and Body manual that I developed for my business that I founded, right? And then I just tweak it every so often because things change. But that's my Bible to success. That's what I used.
Yeah, amazing.
And it gave me finally the freedom that I wanted, the money I wanted, and it allowed me to sell.
Yes. Well, you've just, as you were talking about that, you kind of took me back, you know, to all the 3 a.m. wake up calls because somebody's sick, or, you know, the 9 p.m. calls because somebody's checking out the FPOS machine and it's out of balance $100 and they don't know how to reconcile it. And, you know, I guess it gives the business owner a lot more flexibility to have a life, you know, and not be interrupted mid-dinner or just while they're going to sleep or something like that. But two, I guess, you know, a lot of the times I answered those phone calls and my therapist would say, oh, Tamara, I'm so sorry to call you. And they were feeling a little bit silly or embarrassed themselves. So if they have almost that autonomy to just go to the book, find the answer themselves, it empowers them. They don't feel silly. Your life's not interrupted.
That's exactly it. I mean, in the policies and procedures manual that I had at the time, it even said, if you're out, do this. If you're under, do this. If you're over, do this. Look for this, step by step. All the hundreds of reasons that you could possibly be out. And I remember, Tamara, that exact protocol. I remember writing it down because it was those days that I was so sick of sitting there for an hour figuring out what was wrong. And I remember one day saying, just write it down so I don't have to think again next time I have to do it. So please know that when I developed my policies and procedures, I didn't know that I was going to sell it later on like that. I actually built it for my salon. But I remember this repetitive task that every time we were out, I'd have to start thinking again, where do I look? What is it? And all the different options. And I remember at that time, I remember Daniel, my son, being 8. And I thought, if Daniel can follow this procedure step by step, if he can do it, then I've done the right job. If he questioned me, that means it wasn't clear enough, right? And I remember throwing all these policies and procedures, those management ones, to Daniel, the 8-year-old, and he would just follow it through, you know, and create a refund or create the procedure, like exactly as I said it. If he could do it, anybody could do it. That's how I knew the protocol was right, because he could do it really easily. And it's like, a lot of people think, you know, it is too concise, but it's not. It's exactly what you need. It's the freedom that every salon owner needs. It's how we, you know, how do we talk to people? How do we respond to them? How do we greet them? How do you answer the phone? Right now, I can ring up a salon 5 times in a row. 5 people will answer. They'll answer me in totally different ways.
That's true.
And that's not how we do it here, right? That's just not how we do it here. This is how we do it here. So yes, when you first get employed, you're micromanaged, but then you're given a lot of leeway because you know how we do it here. And people are proud, by the way. The therapists loved it. They loved that they were constantly empowered to success, right? And they became extraordinary therapists, and they were earning huge money. And by the way, for those of you who will ask, I have never paid a therapist 1 cent above award, ever. When I say they were paid so much money, it was all on commissions based on their productivity. Right? So my therapists often were doubling their wage, but their base wage was never over the award. But my incentives were generous, but they were generous in the way that if I gave them this much more money, they made this much more money. So it ends up being petty cash for me, right? But if you didn't perform, then if you didn't bring in the money, then you go back to the award wages, right? So I always wanted them to know that you want that kind of good money. It's not going to be a wage rise. It's going to be based on performance.
Yes. And I want to speak to you about that as well, because you are quite different in terms of the language that you have with regards to retails and sales. And you always encourage business owners to talk about retails and sales and to be really transparent with their teams, other than a lot of people, you know, and I've even been guilty of this myself, not saying retail and sales and talking about prescription or recommendation, you know, more kind of fluffy words. But why have you decided to just kind of take the bull by its horns and just say, well, it is retail and sales and it's figures and it's more black and white than we are pretending it to be?
Well, that's exactly it. I mean, we're pretending something that it's just not. If it's not for the sales and the money, then we don't work and we can't afford to pay the people in there. Everything has to go around and around, right? So you can't say to a therapist, I need you to produce more, if she doesn't know the figures, because she'll easily say to you, more than what? You want me to produce more than what? If she doesn't even know what she's doing, right? She needs to know what an improvement means. So if she did 4,000 last week, well, we need 5,000 this week, right? And we need to keep on going. And I am very sales focused, but it must always be done with integrity, right? We don't push. You never push. It's so easy to sell a lot of retail if you just start looking at the holes in a client's prescription. It's all there. What a client needs, it's all there. You know, even when we write a prescription, we try to sell one or two products. We don't try and sell the whole thing, but we sell what the whole prescription looks like in the first visit. So if I write a prescription for somebody, you will see that I need you to have 12 products, right? I'm not going to sell you 12 products. I just want to sell the story so that every time I bring up a product, you know it's relating back to the story, which is the end result. Right? But if we don't write prescriptions and every time they come, we try to sell another one, that's when we're perceived as pushy. Yes. Now, what is she going to sell me? Last week, she said that serum was going to do this. Now she's saying I need this. You know, last week she said hydration serum because I'm dehydrated. This week she's saying buy an exfoliator so that the hydrating serum will work, so that it's not sitting on dead skin. The following week, she'll come back with something else. But if I explained it the whole time, right at the beginning, you're never going to see me as pushy. You're going to say, okay, this is what it's going to take to get the result I want. We're going to work as slowly and as fast as you want. But here's the solution. I call it the plan, the solution, right? And so it gives everybody direction. Everybody knows where they're going instead of having to go into every appointment thinking, I've got to sell. She's on my back. I don't retail enough. I don't want you to just sell. I want you to sell the right products to the right people at the right time. Because at the end of the day, that's why we're here. We're here to provide results for clients, and we're here to make money for the boss so that she can pay us to pay our mortgage or our rent. It's just that simple, right? And it is actually that black and white. And I even shared, my expenses with my girls. I'll never forget one day. I had a receptionist and I just didn't have the time to, train her that day. And I remember, putting her up on the pedestal, putting her up on the stool in front of the computer saying, you know what, just play around with shortcuts, stick your fingers all over the place, start looking around and just play, because I don't have time to train you today, but I need you to just figure out things, what it is, and I'll get back to you tomorrow, right? And then she comes back with all of these things that she knew, like our expenses, what we were spending and blah, blah, blah. And I remember it's very important for people to know. No, sorry. The first thing she said to me that night is she goes, oh my God, we did 15,000. You can buy a car with that. That's what she said on the Saturday, right? You could buy a car with that. And I remember saying to her, I'll be lucky to see 1,000 out of that 15, right? And that's the day I realized I really had to show people that 15,000 at the end of the week did not go into my pocket.
Yes.
I remember wishing if 1,000 ended up in my pocket, I'd be a happy girl, right? But she didn't understand that. To her, it was 15,000. And it's very similar to therapists. You know, they just see their bosses as saying, sell, 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 or sell courses or whatever. They don't see the picture. So the profit and loss, I used to share with the girls every single quarter. And they would appreciate, when I told them what the electricity bill, when it was high, I'd say, girls, this is you for getting the air conditioning on at night. Right? That's what's the difference between this month, this quarter and last quarter? That's the difference. So making them aware helped so much. And yet so many people say, no, I don't tell my therapist. I don't want them to know how much I make. Why not? Because if they don't know how much you make and how much you spend, then they'll just do whatever they want and they'll think they're doing well. Right? So they knew everything. And I remember thinking, it's confidential. People saying to me, it's confidential, Brigitte. They'll tell people. I go, and? People know my business. I can find out anything about anybody if I really wanted to, right? So, but the benefit from sharing figures, I'm a very figures-oriented business, and I pretty much converted everybody to be that. Right? We all worked on figures on a daily basis, and everybody loved it. So, a lot of that is why everything worked. Yeah. Because we were conscious about being better and stronger than we were. And we were conscious about providing results only. That's all people come for, nothing else. You know, people say, I get so many requests. Low producers, Tamara, say to me, my clients love me. I get so many requests. I don't love you. I don't love you. They come to you because you're talking to them about their weekend and what they wore on Saturday night at the party or whatever. No. That's not a good therapist. Everybody thinks I'm so requested, I'm a good therapist. No. That's not a good therapist. Right? So we have to guide them. And I have to tell you, I guided all my girls and they resisted at first, I'm going to be honest, but then they loved it at the end. And every therapist I've had has gone on to do bigger and better things with their lives. Like we're talking big business, right? And it's because they learned the fundamentals. It's just fundamental.
Massive. Brigitte, I want to ask you, obviously the industry has changed so much from when you very first started to what it looks like now. And obviously just in the last couple of weeks, hours, days, oh my goodness, it's forever changing and updating. And we've been talking a lot about pivoting the business, and being really flexible. And you've just talked about change there as well, and just that adaptation. What do you think the next 10 to 20 years of the beauty industry is going to look like when our doors are open again and we can see the light at the tunnel a little bit more clearer? And also, you mentioned yourself going global as well. What do you want to accomplish within that next kind of decade of your life?
That's a nice question. Okay, so what do I see in the 10 years? As we know, times are tough now, right? We're in amidst the coronavirus and businesses are being forced to behave in a particular way they've never behaved before. And I think nothing will ever be the same. We're changing permanently. There's massive change coming and we're going to change permanently. And more than ever, more than ever, the foundations of business are important. Because when we come back, or the salon owners come back, they want to come back stronger, more educated, understanding why they did make money or didn't make money. Like this is the time to reflect and say, how did I make my money? By what means? I have to come back and build a business because sadly, we know, Tamara, a lot of salons will close, right? A lot of salons won't be able to ride the storm. And a lot of people think that it's the smallish, weak kind of salons. Some of the biggest players will be closing down because those biggest players often are the ones who make a lot but spend a lot.
Yes.
Right? So they won't, when you don't have that momentum of spending more money to make more money, that's when the problem becomes. So we've got all of these expenses with zero revenue coming in. That's a real problem. So everybody thinks it's the little guy. It's not. It's the ones who will survive the most is the ones who build themselves on reputation, which is the foundations of business. They're going to come out stronger than they ever thought that they could, right? Whereas the ones that work on spending money on marketing and just bringing in new clients, and not working on the foundations of business, they're not going to be able to keep it going. The beautiful thing on the other side of this is that there'll be less competition, right? So we're going to get a lot less salons, less competitions. And sorry, therapists, but for the first time ever,
yes,
we're flipping every around. The demand and supply is going to be the other way around. There's going to be less salons, more therapists.
correct.
Right?
And we have to pick up the bunch again.
And salon owners who survive, and you've got to survive, like you've got to say, I'm going to make through this. You are going to have the pick, because there's some superb therapists out there that you will have access to that you never had before. Right? There's going to be some superb therapists that end up jobless because the business closed down. So it's not the bad salons. A lot of the big salons are going to shut, right? Because they have no money to ride this. They have to still pay the expenses while there's minimal revenue coming in. So a lot has changed. Perception's going to change. Attitude's going to change. Behaviors are going to change. And I want to help the therapists too. Like, I want to help you get this right, get your facts right, get reality checked in, so that when you come back bigger than ever, and you end up at the salon of choice, right? But knowing that for the first time, salon owners are going to have a choice pretty soon of who they employ, and they don't have to keep the low producer or the person with the bad attitude. You know what? I don't even mind low producers, because I can turn any low producer with a great attitude into a high producer like that. You know what you can't? Is low producers with bad attitudes. Those, correct. You know what? I can train you until the cows come home. Nothing's going to happen. I can't convert those, right? So it is going to separate people. I also think, Tamara, sorry about that. I also think specializing is going to be the thing, all right? No more. And I'm not saying no more, we're going to have facials and manicures and waxing in the one. So I'm not saying that. There's still room for that. But even if you're that salon that does beauty as well, you got to specialize. Leave your skin therapists alone. Let them just do treatments. To be a high performance therapist, it's a lot of work and dedications that are required. And all the good ones don't want to wax a leg. They don't want to put polish on somebody's hand, right? For no reason other than it doesn't interest them. So for me, if you want to be that salon that is full service, have specialists. Have skin therapists, have beauticians or beauty therapists that only do that, right? Or open up just a skin-focused salon, right? Because the skin is where the money is. 100%. Yes. Skin is where the money is. I can have a $100 treatment and end up with a $700 sale. But if a $50 wax is a $50 wax, maybe it might be a $58 wax by selling something extra, but even that product's going to last all year. Right? So it's a matter of really saying to yourself, reflecting and thinking, what do I want to do when I come back? Do I need a new business plan? I think people need to relook at their business plan and see the massive opportunity that is available in an industry that it's an awesome industry to be in. It's the best industry to be in, right? And with science, technology, the cosmeceuticals, we do magic. We take age away from people. We strip people from aging, right? You couldn't do that. When I first started, you couldn't do that. The best we could do was fluff, hydrate, and prevent. Or no, we didn't even prevent. We could slow things down.
Yes.
Today, we can undo. Who doesn't want to look younger, right? Who doesn't? Everybody wants to look younger. Even the young want to look younger.
It's
oldies
true.
like me, the young girls want to look younger, right? And the proof is in the pudding with injectables and Botox. The proof that people want to look younger is in that, because people have the money for that. Hey, a lot of people will go for that instant fix and will fork out the $400-500.
They do.
So the demand is there. It's how you sell it, right? And people value how they look, and they value looking younger. When you put Botox in your face, it's because you don't want people to see the frown.
Yeah.
Frown or lines is aging. We're in the perfect position, in the perfect industry, but we just got to we got to believe in it and be passionate about it. And the products that are out there right now, wow, I wish I had them then. If I could make good money then,
now,
now
you'd be gangbusters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gaining loyal clients is just not that hard.
And what about yourself, Bridget? What does the future look like for you?
Thanks for asking that. I love your questions today because nobody asks me the questions you've asked.
Oh, thank
The
you.
future for me is, as I said, you know what? I love cause and effect. So of course I work for money, right? I've got to pay my own, life. I've got to feed myself, feed my children, feed my home, feed my dog. Of course, money is something that I strive for, but it's not the number one factor. And I'm not just saying that to sound nice, right? The passion, the results, watching people go from low productivity to high productivity is amazing to me. That's my hobby. Like, my business is my hobby because I love the difference. I love seeing people's results. And what's happening overseas is different. Believe it or not, Australia was behind Europe in this industry. Now we're way ahead of Europe, right? In the skin industry. Now we're ahead of the Americans.
Yes.
We do it better than the Americans, right? And I would just love to grow my business globally. It's 95% of my business is online, which is definitely the best way people learn. Like, it's the best platform. And my target audience doesn't have to be Australia anymore or New Zealand. My target audience is any English-speaking country. And so the satisfaction of being able to get out of my bubble and helping other people and turning their businesses around, it's just really exciting for me. In fact, I just got somebody sign up from Alaska.
Oh, well done.
Alaska, a little place. Like, a beautiful client just came in, and I always ask the question, where's your salon, blah, blah, blah. And she said, Alaska. And I went, okay, I'm really hitting overseas now.
There. Yeah, well done.
And still, by the way, advertising, right? So I have no idea how she found me. But so it's an exciting thing. So yeah, I do. I want to go global, and I want to get back on stage, right? So I want to get back on doing live workshops. It's going to be in my online business and then live, because when I'm live, I have the most thrilling time of my life. And live is great for the person watching you, but it's not the best learning platform, because people can see you live and they go, oh my God, that's so good. That's so good. That's so good. They go home and they've forgotten the whole thing.
Correct. Yes.
Right? They remember loving it. They remember thinking, this is so useful. This is so fantastic, but there's so much we can retain. So live should only complement what you do normally. So for me, live will be fun, but true teaching is going to be all online.
Incredible.
And when I say online, it's not just throwing courses at people. I'm there the whole time. I'm there live every week.
Amazing. Well, maybe we'll have to get you live at one of our beauty brunch events once we get through the other side of this.
Love that. Absolutely.
Incredible.
Absolutely.
Bridget, thank you so much for spending the afternoon with me this morning. I was going to say tomorrow. This morning, I have wanted to forever pick your brain and find out when and how you entered. So thank you so much for doing that. And I'm sure you have inspired loads of our listeners today.
Thank you so much. I really did enjoy it. And thank you very much for your generous introduction. That was really very nice. It's nice, an oldie like me, to see that even the young ones are still enjoying what I do.
Thank you so much, Bridget.
Thanks, Tamara. See you soon.
What I admire the most about Bridget is that not only did she see potential in the beauty industry from the get-go, but she wanted to completely understand and experience our industry before becoming a coach, something not many others do. The fact that Bridget talks about the leadership and identity qualities of one's business to build the scaffolding and foundations means that you will actually feel empowered to own a business, not just create a job for yourself. In the current industry landscape, there are many people quick to self-title their expertise with words like coach, educator, specialist, consultant, the list goes on really. But as I always continue to preach to you, please make sure you do your research, look into people's skills, their client testimonials, and their case studies, not just what you read on social media. And before you make contact with someone to assist you in your business, find out what you and your business want and find a person who aligns with that. Remember, it's your business, and like anything you would bring into your business, qualify them like you would hiring a therapist. To find out more about Brigitte and to view her programs, I've popped the links in the episode show notes, or you can follow her over at creamsolutions_Brigitte Benge. To continue the conversation, show us how you're listening to our conversation today with Brigitte by taking a photo or a little video and posting it across your social media stories. I love so much seeing how you guys go for walks, pat your cats, and be creative while you're listening to these episodes. While you're on your phone, if you have some spare time up your sleeve, feel free to give us a little rating or review in the podcast app you're listening to, or click on subscribe over on iTunes and follow on Spotify, which helps us spread the word of community and connection to the beauty industry at a faster rate, because how nice is the feeling of people who just get it. Thank you so much for your ears and your time today. Until next time, stay connected.